And away we go. It is time for a live therapy edition, unfortunately, episode of the Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com. As always, visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get yourself down to Dayton, Kentucky, Wednesday through Sunday, lunch and dinner. Doors open at 11:30. They will get you taken care of. Tell them to pump it up. Save yourself 15%. Or go to the app. They will deliver right to your front door. Pretty much anywhere inside the 275 loop. Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Chad.
How are you?
Just getting a tweet out.
Me too.
Well, not exactly how we wanted it to go.
No.
And by that, I meant baseball. As the baseball team took on the number 7 Florida Gators Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Lost 6-13, lost 3-13, lost 7-13.
No.
Sequentially.
No, they didn't.
No?
No, because you read the scores backwards in that.
I read them the way that they're written.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
They were swept. They were a little, you could tell, early season, a little sloppy from what I was able to ascertain. Just couldn't do enough to get over the hump. And, but there was good news. The men's indoor team won a conference championship in track and field. So a very good weekend for the men's indoor track team. And our new friends, the golf team. They are in a very high-level tournament in Puerto Rico, as you learned, talking to Coach Doug Martin on Thursday night. And they are sitting in second place behind UNC Greensboro by 2 strokes. They lead Duke and Virginia by 5. They actually, let's see. Ryan Ford, who's a freshman, career low 65. He is in first place after the opening round. He had an eagle on a 510-yard ninth hole. Freshman Wyatt Plattner had one on the 6th, and Ryan Waltherspoon did so on 14. That's what Doug talked about. They would be as good as they were on the par 5s. That would kind of determine how they were going to play in this event. They were great on the par 5s. All 6 Bearcats, I believe, under par. They were 13 under on the day. Like I said, 2 strokes back of UNC Greensboro. So congrats to the gentlemen on the golf team for a great start to the spring season. All right, that's all I got. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Just kidding. Oh boy. The final trip to Memphis. A heartbreker, 73-76. Memphis holds on, holds off a furious Cincinnati rally in the final 8 minutes. But I'm going to be honest, Aaron. Probably the most frustrated I've been with the game all season.
Really?
Because, because there were areas of that game that they flat out played Memphis. Unfortunately, there were areas of that game they got their ass kicked. And they looked like they weren't physically up to the challenge, especially taking care of the basketball. Yeah, I think this beats it, the NKU loss with frustration, because that was just a fluke. That was a fluke.
I get it, but when you only score 8 points and a half, that's where I was the most frustrated I've ever been. with
Well,
any team.
I'd imagine because they scored 11.
I'm sorry, whatever it was. It was a horrendous.
If you're going to say it with your chest, you got to be right.
I tried to forget about the game. So,
yeah, it beats NKU for me with frustration because you have a chance to play yourself up to the 3 seed. Like, you had a lot still riding on this game. And it was almost like I've been trying to process this in my brain, Aaron. And I wonder if this was a case of the 3 times under West that they had played Memphis prior to this. And we talked about this last night when we were previewing Memphis. Memphis gave them a ton of problems with length. Mm-hmm. And in this game, that wasn't going to be necessarily the case because you had Kendrick Davis, played 37 minutes. You had Alex Lomax, who played 26 minutes. Those are both smaller guys. Both of them are under 6 foot. Neither of them are, create the length issues that had given Cincinnati problems when they had played Memphis the first 3 games. And instead, Penny Hardaway decided to focus on their quickness and their speed. And they were coming from behind and back tapping and swiping at balls from the backside. Lomax especially.
That back-to-back on Landers and Ollie made me want to break the TV.
Yeah. And then I thought it sped them up. I thought they were nervous about it the rest of the game. Was there a guy back there that was coming around for the steal? And it happened a couple extra times. I think they had 15 steals, Aaron. Memphis had 15 steals. Like, you can't. There is a certain level of, like, when we talk about toughness, it is not who wants to get in a fight. It is having the game and situational awareness to not allow your opponent to steal the ball 15 times. And it felt like it started with the 2 on Landers that Lomax just picked his pocket. Just absolutely picked his pocket. And from there, that started a run that put Memphis up. I think they took that out they got up
31-16, I think. Before
whatever.
Cincinnati Cincinnati went on 4 minutes without a shot. Without a point.
That started at 12 to 11. And by the time it ended, Memphis was up 15.
31-16.
Yeah, 31-16. And that came off a steal. A Jaden Hardaway steal, and then a missed 3. They got the offensive rebound. But it also felt like every time they started to whittle it down and you get to 8, and then boom, boom, 2 turnovers, both steals, 5, 6 easy points for Memphis, and 8 was 13 again. And when you're doing that, like, you're just constantly swimming upstream because you're building momentum. And then it's erased like it didn't even happen. I think at one point they had a 7-0 run. They get it down to, I think, 6. And then they give up like an 8-2 run. So it just erases any of the positive momentum that you built. And it felt like that happened like 5 times. Where they'd start to chip away, they'd get a little bit of confidence, and then boom, steal, bucket. And, and the other thing was, take a look at it like this, Aaron. They had 19 turnovers at the under 8 media stop. 19.
Finished with 20.
And what happened from the under 8 media stop to the end?
They didn't turn
the
ball over.
They flat out outplayed Memphis. Flat out outplayed Memphis. And I think the only turnover in that stretch was a charge from Odie.
Yeah,
So
I think I remember that one.
I think that was the only. I think that was the only turnover in the final 8 minutes of the game. So you just you can't continue to shoot yourself in the foot over and over and over again. And I was just, that game was insanely frustrating to watch because you could see when they held on to the ball, they were pretty much getting whatever they wanted. And they shot right at, I think, 50% for the game.
49.2.
Yeah. And 37% from three. The free throws, we'll get to that. That's another thing that sunk them in the final 2 minutes. You missed the front end.
Oh, the seniors pissed down their leg for sure.
By two guys that are just great free throw shooters. Great
seniors
free throw shooters in JD and Micah. Like those guys, if you're going to win that game, those guys have to step to the line and make those free throws. Have to.
Sorry, this was.
I don't know. I was making this point to somebody. I was driving home from the hospital. DeAndre Williams is legitimately like guys in the NBA. 26 is your prime. That's 26 to 28.
You made that joke last night on the nightcap. Or 2 nights ago.
Yeah, it was last night. No, it was last night. Yeah. But he's in his prime, basketball-wise. He should be kicking everybody's ass. Like that, you're 26. You should be physically developed. Williams is a senior citizen, not a senior. But I mean, I thought they did a really, really good job on Kendrick Davis. Yeah, he scored 22, but he was 8 of 22 from the floor. He was 0 of 5 from 3. Like, yes, he got 6 points on the free throw line, but it was way better than, I think he was 12 of 14 from the free throw line in the first game. So he got to the free throw line half as many times as he did the first time around. You made him take 22 shots. And I would guess 3 of his baskets had to be on just easy layups off of turnovers. So you did what you could on him. Williams was great. 21, 10 of 18 shooting, 7 rebounds. I think he had 5 steals. I don't know.
Here's a lot of
many ways you should and could have won that game if you could have just stopped pissing down your leg. That's all you had to do.
Cincinnati beat him in rebounds, 39-29. That was one of the keys that we thought was going to win you the game, but not taking care of the ball. That certainly doesn't help anything in a 20-8 turnover battle. Here's some of the stats that really frustrate me, though, in this loss. 36 points in the paint for Cincinnati, 50 points in the paint for Memphis, 6 points off turnovers for Cincinnati, 24 points off turnovers for Memphis, which will happen when you have 20 turnovers. Second chance points for Cincinnati, 4. Second chance points for Memphis, 14. Memphis only had 9 offensive rebounds. Cincinnati had 12. And still just out-hustled.
Didn't convert.
Fast break points for Cincinnati, 12. And 20 fast break points for Memphis.
Yeah.
All of those stats annoy the hell out of me, and I can only imagine how much Wes wants to vomit when he looks at those stats.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they beat themselves, and that's what's more frustrating. See, to go back to the most frustrating loss of the season, that's why it is for me. Like Northern, it was annoying, it was frustrating, but they just went cold. It wasn't a matter of they should have beat Northern, but they beat themselves. They should have won that game. If they play at their standard level in terms of taking care of the basketball, they beat Memphis by 10. And instead, you're scratching and clawing in the final 2 minutes to get over the hump, which is really hard to do. You got to make pretty much every shot, and they didn't do that.
They did not.
Including missing the front end of 2 1-on-1s. I think if you make all those 4 free throws, I think there's a pretty damn good chance they win that game. I do.
Yeah, because you're talking. You're talking about a potential 4-point swing right there, and I don't know how it goes at the end because they could have tied on that second one, even if they had made the first 1-1, I guess. But
like if you make they were down 4 when JD goes to the line, you can cut it to 2 with there was like a minute and a half left, I think.
The goaltending call too. That was not goaltending.
No, it was a clean block. But you got to overcome that. Like you have to overcome it. You have to. You have to. Where is? Oh, they were down 6 on the Davenport miss. So you make that, you get it to 4, and instead they give up a layup to Lomax that pushes it back to 8. And then they're down 4 on the Micah one. They could have cut it to 2. They get a stop. And then, you end up actually cutting it to 2, which would have been tied. You would have been tied with 6 seconds left or whatever. And then you have the Dave layup. They run a perfect baseline out of bounds play. And Dave gets a look and tries to pump fake the defender behind him. And as he does that, Williams recovers from guarding the inbounder and blocks the shot. You catch that ball and you're 5'11", 6 foot. You catch that ball and you go up immediately.
It's not like he's not one. He's certainly one who can, even if he doesn't get contact, he can fake contact. He has not been shy of flailing. Yeah. I don't normally endorse that, but Memphis Williams specifically had one that stood out to me where he threw himself a good 10 feet. Dave, I'm saying I'm just saying I'm okay if Dave would have flopped a little bit on a Williams touch. Then
look, the thing was, it was a Pat Adams crew. I knew it was going to be poorly officiated.
I got real annoyed that they kept saying Mike Roberts because I'm wondering why the assistant coach is on the court. One of the refs' names was Mike Roberts.
Oh, gotcha. It just this team has too thin of a margin for error, as we've seen all year with how close all of these games have been against teams with relatively similar talent. You can't turn it over 20 times.
Shouldn't ever turn it over. Period. 20 times.
Well, I guess the thing for me is, so you have that stretch early. Isn't there some internal fortitude where the guys are just like, look, because obviously they flipped the switch the final 8 minutes. It wasn't like Memphis just stopped trying to turn Cincinnati over. They just said we're going to be tough enough to not turn the ball over, and they didn't turn it over.
I don't know what was going on with Landers Nolly today. I don't know if it was because it was his first game back in Memphis and he was booed every time he touched the ball. I don't believe it was that the moment was too big for him because I don't think that such a thing exists for Landers Nolly. I don't know what was going on, if the 2 turnovers back-to-back just wrecked his mindset for the whole game, but he just felt off.
Until the end, and then he woke up.
It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be hard to go back into a place that you spent, 3 years essentially, because he did sit out a year. You're playing in front of the fans that used to love you. Now they hate you. But you got it. You can't. Okay, you get poked from behind once. Okay. But did they have it happen on the next possession?
Same guy, same play. It's like just everything. It was
He turned his back, he turned his back to him. He knew he was there.
Instant replay. Ugh.
He turned his back to him and then just dismissed him. Like he didn't exist. Gah! Anyhow, you want to go guy by guy? DeJulius, solid game, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. He did have 3 turnovers. He was 1 of 6 from 3. He only got to the free throw line once.
How do you have 17 assists as a team on 20 turnovers?
This could have been. They scored 73 points and turned it over 20 times. Aaron.
It's unreal.
They could have scored 90.
They were in the game until
reasonably could have scored 90.
They were in the game until the last.
Honestly,
10 seconds.
They should have been down 30 at halftime. I have no clue how that wasn't 52-24.
Because it was all twos. Because Memphis only went 3 of 15 from 3. Everything was twos.
They're not a 3-point shooting team. That's not really what they do.
You asked why it wasn't 30.
I know. Well, but you turned it over 11, 12 times, and 9 of them were steals. That should get you to 50.
It wasn't 30 because you had 10 more rebounds, because you shot the ball almost 50%, and because you hit 7 more threes.
And, well, in the first half, Cincinnati was 3 of 13 from 3. I'm talking about what the score should have been at halftime. Memphis shot 51% from the floor, 40% from 3. They had 9 steals, 14 points off turnovers. They led in bench points 15-6. They led points in the paint 28-16. They led fast break points 12-2. Aaron, it should have been a blowout at halftime, and it was 41-30. That's what I'm saying.
I don't know what to make of anything that I watched today. I hate Memphis.
Yeah, I don't really hate them. They don't.
I mean, it's a good rivalry. I'll say that. Sure. But yeah, no, I don't know. Dave, I thought Dave was good. Not great. I thought that he was our best point guard. I thought he was better than Micah. Even though Micah ended up with more assists, but not that Micah had a bad game, but it was just, you didn't do anything that really, if you wanted to get this team over the hump, it needed to be done on the backs of your best players. And
yeah, I mean, definitely problematic. Vic, who was awesome in the first game, only has 8. He turned it over 4 times. Memphis was running that double at him.
Yeah.
That he didn't handle well. 3 of 3 from the floor, 1 of 1 from 3, which, I mean, he chucked it up with,
it was nice.
0.7 of a second. Yeah.
It was nice.
9 rebounds. He was solid on the glass, but they've got to get him incorporated back to where he was before the ankle injury and fast.
Here's a question for you, Chad. Are the throwback uniforms the equivalent of white helmets?
To fans, I don't know. Maybe they have nothing to do with the outcome of a game, but maybe.
I don't think it's fair, because I feel like we only wear them against Memphis at this point.
Yeah, Memphis wears the blue, Memphis State, and Cincinnati wears the white caps.
Yeah. I mean, now I think that's 4 or 5 in a row straight losses to Memphis. So I don't know that that's necessarily a fair assessment. I'd like to see them wear the jerseys against another team, perhaps.
Or just stop wearing them against Memphis. How about that?
Break the curse against another team, and then we're not going to play Memphis again. So it doesn't matter. Unless we do the home and home.
Sunday of the conference tournament with a spot in the big dance on the line. How's that?
Oh, God. Throw up. We can't beat 3-6 Mafia. they did do the chant from the movie Hustle and Flow.
Okay.
Something that trick.
Let's keep it moving. Odie, 12 points, 5 of 6 from the floor, hit both of his free throws, 6 rebounds, 25 minutes. Another really solid performance from Odie Aguama.
Odie he did everything he wanted him to do. I thought he was on the raw end of a couple calls. There was a charge that he got called on at one point. I thought
that was a good call.
Where he was the one with the ball, or the one where he was on defense? Because I didn't like the one where he was on defense.
Okay, the one on offense was a good call.
I'm talking about the one on defense in particular. Obviously, the goaltending call, didn't like that, but
awful. How's that not reviewable? How can you not go look at that to determine
the same reason
that it hit the glass first?
The same reason that you're under 2 seconds and you hit a 3 and they didn't go review that. Not that I think that would have mattered all that much. Maybe you put 0.3 of a second on and go up to a full second.
Well, see, they did. They reviewed it. It went through at 7 seconds, and then they fouled immediately as the ball came in. That took 0.3 of a second off. That's why there was 0.4 of a second on the clock in Memphis at the free throw line. They did review that.
Okay, so they did add the 0.3.
Yeah.
I missed that. I think I was just sour at that point. Shocked. But yeah, I mean, Odie. Look, I think that we're going to look back at this season once all's said and done, and I think I think it's safe to say we'll all appreciate the work Odie put in and the improvement that Odie had, because I know that people were talking at the beginning of the season curious as to if Odie even deserved a spot on this team.
He was struggling around the rim to finish, and now he's shooting 114% from the floor over the last 3 weeks.
And he's been a rebounding machine, really. Yeah. So I'm just very pleased in the improvement we saw in Odie Aguama.
Landers, we talked about a little bit, 13 points, 5 of 12 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3. He missed another free throw. He did have 6 rebounds, 3 assists, but 5 just killer turnovers, man. Just killer turnovers.
And I think we're 2 pressers removed from him saying that you're never going to see me have that many turnovers again. Yeah. I'm going to stay under 3 the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. I think he was in his head. I think he was in his feels. He was in his head. And I am sure he wishes he could get a redo on this game, because I don't think that was how he anticipated playing in this game. I'm sure he's got a little bit of a vendetta against the Memphis Tigers.
Guys, I have no clue who's going to come back or not. The season's not over. I don't know. I know we're close and it's what everybody wants to talk about, but those decisions haven't been made. So I don't know. I promise I don't know.
Landers was another one that without his rebounds, they don't win the rebounding battle. Just unfortunately, those back-to-back turnovers, man, just set a tone. It set a tone early on, and it messed with him, and I think it messed with the team in the first half.
It did. And there's no doubt about that. It just flipped, and it felt like 20 seconds. It flipped the entire momentum of the first half, the way that first half was playing out.
Yeah, you were trading blows. Cincinnati had a couple leads early on, and after that, it was a long fight uphill.
Didn't get there. Micah, 7 points, 8 assists, career high. Only 2 turnovers, 35 minutes. He did kind of take over a lot of the point guard duties. They were trying to run some length at Dave and keep the ball away from Dave. You had Micah with it wasn't a size advantage, but it was just equal. He had a solid game, not a great game, but he was solid.
The one thing I appreciated out of Mike Adams was, because I agree, I said earlier, I thought it was a good game, not a great game. The one thing I appreciated out of Micah though today, I thought he was aggressive with the ball when he had the
A
ball
little
in
bit
his
more
hand.
aggressive getting to the rim. Yeah.
Or
He's the
even
one guy that can get downhill.
even when he didn't necessarily go up at the end,
But he made the defense collapse and got downhill.
Except the one time he did go up and then ended up in the air and ended up as a turnover because he didn't know what to do with it when he got in the air. And there was a large
I think Williams was right there.
Large human looming over him. But I again, just another one that after all said and done, I think we're really going to appreciate what Mike Adams Woods gave to this team and where we've seen him come from and where he is now, especially when you compare it to last season at this time.
Vic, 8 points, as we talked about, made all 3 of his baskets from the floor. One, I think they probably should have went to Vic a little more. 2, Vic's got to get comfortable again. Like, he doesn't look nearly as comfortable as he was right when he went out with that ankle injury.
No, that's going to come back with practice. It's going to come back with game time. It's going to come back with just strengthening the ankle again. I don't know how aggravated it is at this point, or it isn't. I'm sure it's not 100% because I think everyone's playing with something at this point in the season.
Sure.
But yeah, he doesn't look quite the same. And you can, as somebody who wears his emotions on his sleeve, and I can appreciate that, you can tell it's bothering the hell out of him.
Yeah. Richard, we're not doing this. Thank you for the $1.99, but we don't know. We don't have any idea what the roster looks like next year. Does Landers who comes back? What do they do in the portal? Like, we have no idea. So we have no idea if this team will be hard to watch, even with new guys. What do we know about this team? They went to Houston and almost beat Houston. Houston would be the best team in the Big 12. So Houston we don't know. Can we stop
would be the best team in the Houston would be the best team in the country right now.
Yeah. The NIT's 32 teams. It's half of the NCAA field. So seeds 1 through 8, 32 teams.
Well, that would be.
But I'm not. Yeah. What? Well, shut up. I'm not doing this constantly of like, well, just think about next year. We will. We have months to talk about what this roster is going to look like next year. We're still talking about this year. I told you guys that in football. I'm telling you that now. Like, I'm already cranky.
My, how the tables have turned.
You want to trade?
Nope.
What makes you cranky and what makes me cranky right now are not the same thing.
Nope. Polar opposites.
Right. Literally polar opposites.
I'm aware.
So I just like, guys, we know the roster and we know, like, they go get 1 or 2 really good players out of the portal. All of a sudden they got a team that could compete in the Big 12 next year. We don't know. And Houston's the number 1 team in the country. There's no Big 12 teams ahead of Houston right now. Houston's metrics, their adjusted metrics are better than anyone else in the country. You have no idea where they would be if they were in the Big 12. What we know is they're the number 1 team. So I'm going to say that they would be the number 1 team in the Big 12 because they're the number 1 team in the whole damn country. I'm easily annoyed tonight.
We all have our days.
I want my wife to be better.
We all want your wife to be better. Actually, I think I speak for everyone here.
I know. I'm not going to calm down today, Alexander. I'm not going to.
Just because you told him that. He's out of spite.
Yeah. Now I'm going to be even more worked up.
You see what happens with Cranky Chad? You have to learn how to deal with Cranky Chad. You ignore him, and eventually it comes.
I'm not cranky often. I put on a happy face most of the time.
Look, as somebody who deals with you, maybe as much as anybody.
Yeah.
Well aware. Let's move on. JD. What you got on JD, Chad?
Did what you asked of him, hit 3 threes, 4 rebounds, only 1 turnover in 26 minutes. The turnover was bad, like dribbling when he shouldn't dribble. But, ultimately he was -1 in plus minus on the day in his 26 minutes. 3 of 7 from the floor, 3 of 7 from 3. He had a couple twos that he probably should have cashed in on. I guess, the one thing that probably sticks out, I love you, Richard. I'm just cranky. You guys know how I am on this whole, talk about next year's stuff when it's not next year. We will talk about next year a lot. The airball 3 was bad, of course, from JD, but that's JD. He's gonna fire one occasionally that makes you want to scream.
So I thought that coming off the bench, that this exemplified this game today exemplified what I think we all had hoped we would see out of Jeremiah Davenport coming off of the bench. Something like this, where he shoots maybe somewhere in that 3 of 7, 5 of 8, 6 of 10 range.
3 of 7 and 5 of 8 are two totally different.
That's fine.
I know what you're saying, but that's substantially different in terms of production.
I don't mean from 3. I just mean from the field.
Yeah, well, he only took threes.
That's usually how that goes with him. That said, though, I thought he did well rebounding. As I was watching him today and realizing that he is coming off the bench and that there are people who can, he's not necessarily needed per se. I guess I just wanted him to be more aggressive defensively. And maybe that's what's been missing all season. I felt like if anybody was driving the lane on him, I know he tends to try and take the charge. Today, I didn't think he did that. I thought he kind of just cowarded at the rim. Instead of going up with anybody who was laying it up in front of him, he'd kind of stay out of the way. It wasn't trying to take the charge, wasn't trying to go up and potentially alter the shot. You had 5 fouls to use. He had no fouls today. And I'm not saying necessarily get handsy as far as trying to make a steal or anything like that, but I just didn't see him doing anything around the rim that if you're going to play the 4 spot, you got to.
Yeah. It's just not who he is defensively, unfortunately. Wish it was, but it's not. He was, again, okay. And I think that was kind of the main problem as we're going through this all, Aaron, looking at it from 10,000 feet instead of in the heat of the moment. There were too many guys that were just okay today. And Memphis had one guy that was great and another guy that was good enough,
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like Memphis's other guys did a bunch of damage.
Well, even as we're doing this and we know that we didn't have anybody who was great or enough, it was still only a 3-point game.
Yeah. That's the frustrating part. If you just have a couple more guys that are good instead of okay, you win the game. If you have 15 turnovers and 12 steals instead of 20 and 15, probably win the game. And you know why you play, Aaron?
You play to win the game. Let him off the hook.
Those are two different quotes, but yes.
Deal with it what you
will. Dan. Interesting about Dan. 2 of 4. Played 9 minutes. He scored 6 points. You feel pretty good about that, right?
You would.
You see his plus minus?
I did not.
What do you think it's before you look?
I'm not in the stat broadcast. I'm on
Okay.
Go Bearcats, so they don't have the plus minus, so I can't.
What do you think in 9 minutes his plus minus was?
I'm gonna go minus Minus 10.
16.
That was when they went on their run, right? He offered. Look, I know that I was getting on JD for defensively not offering much around the rim. I don't think Dan offered anything defensively today.
Dan didn't have a rebound. He had one turnover,
one foul,
and that's it. Now, some of those 16 were the fault of others getting their pocket picked for easy layups. But that's glaring that he played 9 minutes and was minus 16 in 9 minutes.
Who was he matched up on throughout most of the game?
It was one of their secondary guys. I think it would have either been
Lawson, Franklin,
or McKinnon, or Franklin.
There's two Lawsons, I guess. So
yeah, but yeah, I mean that's a tough look, man. And I know plus minus is really hard in small sample sizes to like.
Yeah, you can paint that stat the way you need to.
But 9 minutes minus 16. The next closest guy was minus 8. It was Kalu.
Not great, Bob.
Who had 2 points, 1 rebound, 2 fouls, and 2 turnovers in 3 minutes. Minus 8 in 3 minutes. That's also pretty glaring. And then Josh only played a minute. I think he got in right at the end of the half. And that's the rest of the roster. So yeah, that's maybe Kalu is probably more glaring. Minus 8 in 3 minutes.
Well, I guess my question would be: were Kalu and Dan out on the court at the same time? And if that was the case,
they had to be at some point in time, and that could.
Why
were guys holding the ball so long? Why were
you're not covering one?
Yeah.
You can cover one of those guys up, right? You can't cover both of those guys up
defensively, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. I don't know that for sure.
I'm just curious if we would know.
But when you look at Memphis, like, I mean, Elijah McCadden was 31. What? Huh? That's crazy. What? McCadden played 31 minutes. He was minus 15.
That is crazy.
So that tells you that a lot of the damage was done in very short spurts for Memphis, because that means
when DeAndre Williams was on the bench.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but he played 31 minutes. Like that's not a small sample size. That means there was 9 minutes. The 9 minutes he wasn't on the floor, Memphis was plus 18. You know what I bet it was? I bet those are the minutes that Lomax and Davis played together.
Maybe.
Because when those two were on the floor together, they were a menace. They were a menace to Cincinnati's offense.
Again, you'd have to go back and look at the film.
Yeah. But just in breaking it down, I mean, Chandler Lawson was minus 7. Well, Lomax was minus 2. DeAndre Williams was plus 10. And Jonathan Lawson was plus 11.
He did everything.
Everything. Like we said, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 3 of them offensive, 3 blocks, 5 steals.
You know what I'm going to guess?
Everywhere.
I'm going to guess DeAndre Williams and Landers Nolly probably hated each other.
Could be.
Just gonna guess that.
They don't give us plus minus like combo plus minus, just in the basic box score. I think Cincinnati, I believe this all but locks them into the 3 seed. I think right now it's the 4 seed. I mean, locks them out of the 3 seed. Because Memphis would then have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Cincinnati if they were tied. So even if Memphis loses their last 2, Cincinnati wins. Yes, even if Memphis lost their last 2 games, they would be 12-6. Tulane maybe. What's Tulane got left, Aaron?
Give me a second.
They've got a makeup game too, I think, from the ECU game when the announcer passed away.
They do. They have 3 games left. They have ECU at 9:00 on Wednesday. Then they play ECU back at home on Friday at 7. And then they close out the season at home against Temple at 2 on Sunday. So they have
3
4
games this week.
Well, 4 games in a week span.
Yeah, I mean they should beat ECU twice, but
who wants to go into the tournament with 4 games on your legs
in a week? Yeah,
in a week.
So there is a chance that they could jump up to the 3, but this essentially puts Cincinnati in the 4-5 game for all intents and purposes, and 95% chance, I would guess, that it'll be Temple. I guess it could be. Well, if Tulane drops, it would probably be Cincinnati that overtook them. A small outside chance that it's Temple. I think we're gonna end up seeing Cincinnati Temple in that 4-5 game at
Tulane and Temple play to close out the season, though. So
yeah,
Tulane controls Temple, catching them.
But if Tulane beats ECU twice, they're at 12.
Yeah, none of it matters.
Yeah, none of it matters. So right now, everything looks like Cincinnati Temple game 2, which would be about 3:30 on Friday. Not this coming Friday, but the following Friday in the AAC tournament. Which I think I'm supposed to be on radio that day. And of course, I'm on radio 3 to 6.
Curse you, Mo Egger! Curse you!
I'm on radio 3 to 6, and they're gonna play at 3:30. It's guaranteed. So radio that day is just going to be watching the UC game with me on the radio.
You have a computer when you're there, right?
Yeah.
Are we allowed to simulcast on your YouTube channel while also being on the radio?
Maybe.
You should totally find that out.
You have to work out some logistics as that plays out. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about? I think we pretty much ran through everything pertinent to this game. It's just frustrating.
It still leaves me, and I didn't want to be right about this because all my bets, I promise you, I had 2 different bets on Cincinnati. One, I took the money line.
Then you won. If you took the points.
I took the money line and the over on one. I took the points on the other. But I took Cincinnati on all of them. I didn't want to be right that they can't win the big game. But this team still has yet to win the big game. And I hope that they can do it in the tournament. That said,
right? What a way to do it, right?
That said, if you are going to make bets, do so on Betfred. Download Betfred on your phone. Use the promo code Bearcat, BEARCAT, all caps, for your Bearcat Journal promotions. Help us out.
Any bets this weekend? I'm pretty sure I lost my bet. I even looked it up. I bet UCLA. I think it was -7.
Oh, I thought you took the boost.
No, I think it was UCLA -7, and they won by 4.
I hit an 11-game 4-leg parlay that turned into $88 today. I was happy with that.
There you go. 11 game.
Or I'm sorry, $11. $11. 4 game. 4. Well, I think it might have only been 3 games, but 4 legs.
Yeah. I'm just frustrated. Like I felt like that was one. You clean up just one area. You clean up one area.
They did.
And
They
you win
cleaned
that
up.
game.
They cleaned up rebounds.
I'm talking about in the game. During the game, you clean up the turnover. You just stop turning it over. You stop letting them take the ball from you.
And it wasn't even like it was just they threw so many passes into Memphis's hands.
Or Memphis just took it from them. That's my ball, punk.
That's your ball? It's my ball now.
I'm doing a little Friday. That's my bike, punk. You know, Debo when he takes.
Yeah.
That's what Memphis did to Cincinnati pretty much all day. And yet, like the other thing that frustrated the hell out of me was as soon as they stopped turning it over, they were clearly the better team. Clearly the better team. As soon as they stopped turning it over, almost instantly. Do players still have or do they have a time frame to decide when they come back? Not like specifically. Like essentially, you have all the way until classes start in the fall. Like there's, there are time frames for like the draft, declaring for the draft and things like that. Yeah, Memphis punked UC the first 32 minutes. Absolutely no argument from me. None. The nurses are coming in, taking care of Kelly. I don't know why I watch games from the hospital. It's the worst. Because I like, especially in ICU. Could you imagine if I had let out some of the things that I wanted to let out? There would have been people coding in the rooms around us because I'm acting like a jackass.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Glad you kept your cool about you.
There was a lot of quiet frustration.
That's probably for the best.
Probably. Well, it's gonna be a long week this week. No game this week.
Mm-hmm.
So BBP tomorrow. Dave and I are working on a guest for Wednesday. What's the PTP look like Tuesday?
I think Jeff's back, which should help.
That'll be nice. Hopefully The Rock is back on Thursday. I know they had some guys out of town this week. So we'll still be loaded with content, working on a very good guest for the BCJ podcast on Wednesday. That'll be back at its normal time at 8:00. So stay tuned for that. And we'll let you know. Dave and I are working out the details for potentially the very first BCJ Classic.
I don't even know what that means.
It's the first BCJ Scramble golf tournament.
Oh. With
all the proceeds going to Cincy Reigns. So we're working some things out. We're in the exploratory phase, but I'm bullish on this becoming a thing this summer, and maybe a thing every summer from here on out. I'm excited about it. So
I'm gonna have to get to the driving range.
Oh, you're gonna play?
I love playing golf. I'm just not good.
It's a scramble.
Exactly.
It's a fundraiser. Everybody have a good night. Thank you for showing up. Hope that was good therapy for all. We'll see you tomorrow night for the BBP and another nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!